Well, hello guys, OverBidden here. In this video, I will go over my late game base of Satisfactory, which has completed the final object of the early access employee of the planet. I have also accumulated over 500 coupons after unlocking all the non-statue items. The base is currently producing 1.8 million awesome sync points per minute globally from all the overflow products on average, and it is consuming at least 30,000 megawatts of electricity per minute. This is my first playthrough of the game, which lasts in total about 400 hours on update 4 of the early access in November 2021. There will be 2 videos to cover my base. For the first video, I will go over a few production sites for various products outside of the main base. For the second video, I will go over the overall design philosophy of the main base and the main bus and some other topics. I will use Pak Utility Mod to move around to showcase my base in the interest of time, and I apologize for the quality and frame rate of the video because of the limitation of my hardware. I am certain that there are better ways to build a base in many ways for better efficiency, cosmetic, and many other aspects. I am limited by my FPS, the current patch, my knowledge, and my time spent on the game. The purpose of this video is to showcase how I build my base in this playthrough and hopefully promotes ideas and healthy discussions. And please always remember that saying, if something looks stupid but works, then it may not be stupid after all. With all that out of the way, let me show you some production sites. First, let's go to the files of the map where 6 crude oil nodes are located. In theory, a maximum of 2,550 cubic meters of oil can be extracted, with all oil extractors producing at 250% at this location. I am extracting 2,400 of them and transporting them using 4 Mark II 600 pipes. Among 2,400 cubic meters of crude oil, 1,200 goes to 40 refineries to produce plastic, and another 1,200 goes to another 40 refineries to produce rubber. This setup will give me 800 plastic and 800 rubber, which is only 20 units over the 780 Mark V belt limit. I sink the overflow plastic and rubber and use fluid tank buffers to prevent system blockage, and 2 full belts of products will be sent into the main base. 1,200 cubic meters of heavy oil will be created as the byproduct as well. I am combining them with 2,400 cubic meters of water, which is extracted by 20 water extractors, putting both the water and heavy oil into 24 blenders to create 2,400 cubic meters of fuel using the diluted fuel recipe, which can then be put into 200 fuel generators to create 30,000 megawatts of power per minute. I will not move deep into those generators because I will have no frame rate. I have a similar but relatively smaller setup located at the east side of the map where 4 oil nodes are located. This setup turns 1,200 crude oil and 1,200 water into a full Mark V belt of plastic and 10,000 megawatts of power. It is worth to mention that turbo fuel will produce more power compared to fuel. However, I choose not to go with that route simply because I think I'm currently producing enough power for my need using just fuel, and I don't want to introduce sulfur and coal and more processes into the equation. One of the most complicated raw material processes in the game to date is to turn raw bauxite eventually into aluminum ingots. The difficulty stems from choosing the optimal recipe that is suited for the base, gathering all the necessary inputs, and balancing all the inputs and outputs throughout several steps. I am using the sloppy alumina recipe to turn raw bauxite and water into alumina solution, and the electrolyte recipe to turn aluminum solution and the petroleum coal into aluminum scrap and water. For this second step, the petroleum coal comes from processing crude oil to get heavy oil and polymer resin. Sinking the polymer resin, the heavy oil can then be further processed into petroleum coal to be used as the input. The output of the water, however, is very tricky to get rid of to prevent blockage. In theory, this output of water can be used as input for the sloppy aluminum recipe. In practice, even with the correct calculation and design that provides enough buffers, because this setup creates a catch-22 situation, random system shutdowns persisted. I eventually take all the output of water away to another factory and provide all the input of water directly from water extractors. In summary, my system takes 1,200 raw bauxite, turns them into 1,200 aluminum ingots, which then produces 400 aluminum casing and 600 aluminum sheets per minute. These numbers are relatively small for a mega base, and if I were to expand my base further, this will be one of the very first improvements. And one last thing about this aluminum process. Since the final outputs are aluminum sheets and casing, the overflow of these two products needs to be put into the sink to prevent the shutdown of the whole system. Since I was talking about getting rid of the output water, let's take a look at where the water goes. The water combines with copper ingots are made into copper sheets. The copper sheets alone and its next product, heat sinks, are then sent to the main bus to go back to the main base. Not too far away from the east crude oil nodes, it's a saturated well for nitrogen gas. All the gas is packaged and sent onto the main bus. I choose to send nitrogen gas in the packaged form for two reasons. The first reason is that a single Mark V conveyor belt is sufficient to transfer all 2,100 cubic meters of nitrogen gas from this location compared to 4 Mark II pipes. And the second reason is that the ingredient of aluminum ingots that are used to build empty fluid tank is close by. I do need to add that once enough empty fluid tanks that are put into the belt cycle, no more tanks will be needed, which makes the second reason not as relevant. There's also a downside for this setup, which is after exhausting the nitrogen gas in the main base, the empty tanks needs to be sent back to this site to be reused to prevent constant making of empty fluid tanks, which will drain the aluminum ingots. I'll quickly show a few more production sites that processes raw materials and send secondary products onto the main bus. Here, 1,800 raw copper ore and 1,200 water are processed and turned into 4,500 pure copper ingots and then turned into 750 cables and 625 copper powders. You may wonder where I get all the numbers. Well, I do have a spreadsheet for every single production site. At this location, raw iron ores are gathered and processed into iron ingots, then into full Mark V belt of iron rods. Also, raw Caterham ores are smelted and turned into Caterham ingots from 2 different locations. At this location, to achieve the maximum output of steel beams, coal and sulfur are turned into compacted coal. Compacted coal and raw iron ore are turned into steel ingots. And steel ingots are finally made into steel beams. I am making 500 steel beams per minute at this location. At this location, I am turning water, coal, raw iron ore into a full Mark V belt of steel pipe. I should have mentioned it earlier that all the excessive products of every production site will be dumped into Austin sinks to utilize all the production capacity. At this location, I am turning raw quartz into quartz crystals. Look at how beautiful the scenery is at this location. And here, right below my main base, is one of my concrete facilities. In this video, I've showcased a few production sites outside of my main base. At this point, the video is already long enough, so I will end it right here. In the next video, I will go over how I design my main base and main bus, and how I turn various secondary resources into final products in the main base, along with some other topics. Thanks for watching.